right. Our next subject here is to begin to actually format it properly on the sheet. So I mentioned a couple of times this idea of scale. Scaling drawings is absolutely necessary in our industry because um, it provides a basis upon which you can extract more information from a drawing than is presented. So when we draw plans, we typically draw them either 1/8 inch equals a foot or 1/4 inch equals a foot. And so what that means is if I have a drawing here, well, let me put it up here. So if I have a call it a 10 by 10 box, right? So if my floor plan is 10 feet by 10 feet, and I put it on a sheet at 1/4 inch equals a foot. So that means that there are 10 1/4 inches in the length of this box, right? So we're going to be 2.5 inches long. Does that make sense? So if we do, does it make sense?
No, sorry,
okay.
I didn't know if we could.
That's fine. So 1/4 inches, we're going to wind up with something that looks kind of like this. So that's 1 inch, 2 inch, well, another 1 inch, and then that'll be a 1/2 inch, right? Because it's broken up into 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2. Each of those is 1 inch mark on a ruler. So on your page, if you have a page that's 8.5 by 11 inches, let's see, 11 times 4 is 44. So you can have, on your sheet, you can have a maximum of a plan that's 44 feet long on an 8.5 by 11 sheet in width. Does that make sense? Because it's 11 inches. And there are 4 1/4 inches in an inch. So if it's 11 inches, 11 times 4 is 44 feet. Okay, well when you see it on the software, it'll make a little bit more sense too. So let's take a look at what that looks like in the software. Our plan, I'm just going to kind of pull this out. And remember, this is a viewport. And I described the viewport as a window into model space. And that's live. So if I go back into model space and I start moving things around, I can move this plan, whoops. I can move this plan up here, a little bit away from my sections, and then when I go back over to my layout, it has moved, right? It's live. So this viewport has a scale. And that scale right now is seen, I don't know what this is doing, but I don't like it. Anyway, that is really annoying. So the scale is actually presented down here in the bottom thing. It's right down there for those of you who can't quite see at the bottom. But it's a bunch of little numbers. It should show up as a bunch of little random decimal numbers. What you do is when you select the viewport, right? So I click on the viewport, you see that it's highlighted. Down here it shows me what scale it is currently in, and then if I click it, it opens up this menu of scales that I can change it to. So currently it's set on something like scale to fit, where it just takes my whole drawing, fits it within that window as best it can. What I want, if you scroll down, is either a 1/4 inch or an 1/8 inch equals a foot. So if I switch it to 1/4 inch, you see that it's very, very small. So we can go larger than a 1/4 inch. If I go down to an 1/8 inch, you'll see it gets even smaller by a factor of half. Yes?
The scale thing's not on my menu at the bottom.
It's not.
Mine was there, but they...
Oh, so if you don't have the viewport selected, it won't be there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So select the viewport, and then you can see them. So notice how it's really, really tiny, right? So I mentioned that on this plan, wait, quarter inch equals a foot. Yeah, 44 feet. That makes sense. This sheet actually seems a little bit bigger. So anyway, if we go up to, I think we can go all the way up probably to 1/2 inch. Wow, this seems, hold on a second. This sheet seems like really big. 11 inches, 1/2 inch equals a foot. Oh, my drawing must be out of scale. Let me measure this. 2 feet. Ha! So I had a scaling issue. This is probably something we should all go into here. So this is a good opportunity for us to look at troubleshooting scale issues. For some reason, I don't know why, but apparently my AutoCAD file came in as a really weird scale, which is odd because it's drawn correctly in Rhino, or at least it was. 24 feet. That's really funny. Anyway, what you should do here is double check the length of your building. So I would grab something like your top view, your roof plan, and the command is this. It's DIST for distance. And then you can snap to the top left corner here and pull over to the top right corner here. So for me, it said 2 feet. You guys all got 2 feet? That's so odd. I'm going to real quick just take a look at this. Options. That's really funny. I don't know why that did that. It never used to do that to me before. But so if we've all got 2 feet, what we need to do is scale the drawing up to make it the actual size it's supposed to be. And it's actually remarkably simple. So it looks like this. The scale command, we did it in Rhino, but the scale command in AutoCAD just runs a little bit differently. So type in scale, and because now we're working in 2D, the scale is just going to ask us to specify a multiplication factor. So when I select all of our objects and I hit enter, it's going to ask for a base point. And I could set that base point anywhere I want. I'm just going to click somewhere like right here. Yes?
How do you change it from lasso to the actual square?
Oh, that's a good question. Lasso, like this.
Yeah.
That stupid selection tool. You just click once. And then click again. Don't click and drag.
It wasn't before you can.
Huh?
You can drag it.
Yeah, I don't know. That's one of those.
Before 2016.
Yeah, it's one of those newer software features I never really dug into because I hate it. Okay, so scale. Guys, let me bring you all back in here. Scale, when we select it all, type in the scale command. It'll ask you to specify a base point. So you click to specify your base point. Now notice, as I pull further and further away, the drawing gets huge. And that's because the distance I'm pulling it away from the base point is multiplying the scale of that to its original. So if I move it 10 feet away, the drawing gets 10 times as big. Making sense? So I think what happened is if it's 2 feet, then it came in as inches. Even though Rhino was working in feet, it still read it as inches. So we got 24 feet for our width, right? 24 inches, 2 feet. Anyway, so what we need to do here is say there are a couple things we can do. We know that we want to go from 2 feet to 24 feet. So that would be a multiplication factor of 12, right? Or if you don't quite know what the original size is, but you do know how big you want something to be, that's kind of simpler. So notice how it says specify scale factor, which would be a multiplication number. Or you can copy with a scale. Don't worry about that. We're not doing that. Or reference. So reference is a little bit closer to what you see in Rhino. If you click that, it asks you to set a new base point. So here in my roof plan, I'm going to start at one of my corners. And then it says specify the reference length, specify second point. So I click on another point on a side of which I know the length that I want it to be. So I click again, and now as I'm pulling away, you see that it's scaling at the same rate that I'm pulling away. So instead of doing it as a multiplier, it's now just doing it as an actual distance. So when I type in 24 feet, it scales up to exactly 24 feet. So now I can double check that with a DIST. I go from this corner to that corner, and I've got, we see it down there, 24 feet. Do you guys need to see that again? I imagine you do. Somebody around here probably does. Huh? No? You guys all got it? Awesome. Sweet. So, I did it. I'm going to move this away from the origin. I don't like when it's too close. So now back into layout. So I just moved, I scaled, I moved. Now when I go back into layout, I have no idea where my drawing is. AutoCAD makes this really easy to find your drawing again. So your viewport I mentioned is like a window into model space. Check this out. If you double click in the viewport, it gets a little thick line there, and then you got a new origin there. Now you're working in model space on your layout. So I can double click the middle mouse wheel, and I suggest you all do this right now. Double click the middle mouse wheel, and it rescales to fit everything in your drawing. And then double click outside of it to get it back. So this is what's going to happen. When you double click inside of your viewport, now you can zoom in and out of the model space and not your layout. If you double click outside of it, now you can zoom in and out of your layout.
So first we double click to see stuff, and after that we should do
Double click your mouse wheel. Mouse wheel, the wheel. Yeah. You got it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So, so that's how you begin to, float around in model space. But I need to warn you about something. So the warning here is that if you're zoomed in to your model space like this, and you activate it by double clicking, you're going to be stuck there. Because you can zoom out all you want, you're not going to be able to double click outside of your viewport because you're currently in model space. And we'll play with like locking this and stuff later on, but I just want you to be aware that in order to get back, you have to click on this one right down here. So it might look a little different or be in slightly different locations for you guys depending on your resolution or where you put your toolbars, but it says model. So when you click that, it toggles it back to paper space. So you can click it again and go back into model space if you want. But now I can zoom back out and I'm back at my paper space. Does that make sense? So that's a warning for you that can happen. It probably will. And I just want you to be aware that that's there so you're not freaking out. All right, so now we need to set our scale. And once we set our scale, we're primarily done with the floor plan for now. Our scale right now, if you double click, we can set it to, I think we can get up to a half, but let's start at a quarter. Oh, yeah, quarter. Quarter's all we can get. So 1/4 inch equals a foot. If you double click back out, now you're back in a layout space like this. at 1/4 inch equals a foot, our building is 24 feet long. So we've got a 6 inch floor plan on our sheet. Right? Does that make sense, guys? So when you're beginning to lay out your drawings, scale really comes into play. So if you've got a building that's 800 feet long and you need it to be on a D-size sheet, then you need to think about, well, what scale do I need to scrunch 800 feet down to 36 inches or less, right? So that's the kind of simple math that you got to do when you're setting these things up. Questions on this so far?
You said what scale was it? Sorry.
1/4 inch. I forgot what I said too. All right. So what I do want to do here is get you guys to start setting up views on your sheets. And then, well, yeah. We'll set up a few here. All right. So I'm just going to do this in the same video, and then I'll release us to get some work done. So can I gather everyone's attention again? So you have layout 1 and layout 2, and we're going to need multiple layouts. So the last thing that I want to show you here before I release you to just start putting these things on a sheet is how to create a new layout. And it's actually incredibly simple. There's a little plus sign down there next to the layouts. You can just click that, and it creates a new layout. The downside of all this is that you need to right-click on that and then go into your page setup manager for each new layout. I think you might be able to just do that. No. No. So you modify that, and then you set it up. You go to Adobe PDF, make sure it's letter, set to layout, monochrome, and then landscape. That's it. And you just do that for each new sheet. And then now I can set up my sections. So my sections are going to look like this. I can zoom in on one of my sections, change the scale. So I'm going to set this to 1/4 inch. And what I want to do here with my sections is put 2 on one sheet. So I'm going to need to go down in scale. So I'm going to switch this then to 1/8 inch equals a foot. And then move my viewport so that it cuts it off like this. Okay? So you're beginning to understand now how multiple views on a sheet plays in. So that viewport is modifiable as an object. If I type in M and hit enter, I can move it to a new spot. And the last thing, under view, maybe it's not under view, model viewports. Viewport. Oh no, that's model viewports. Where is it? Oh, layout. There it is, layout. So under the layout tab, go to new, and you can just create another, oh wait, hold on. Layout name? I don't care about the layout name. Sorry, not layout, viewport. Sorry, I got totally hung up there. So viewport here is this one right here. So you click on new viewport, you can drop it in, make it approximately the same size, double click inside, activate it, and then get it sort of aligned, and then drop it on the same scale. Okay? What questions do you have? All right, so your assignment then. So what I would like to see from you at the end of today, what we're going to do in next class on Wednesday is we're going to format these. Like we're going to put a title block on it. We're going to make it look nice. We're going to poche the walls and stuff like that. We're going to do some actual graphic development. But right now, I want you guys to get the views on sheets. That's it for today. So you saw that in layout 1, I put my floor plans, or my floor plan. Layout 2, I took both of my sections and I put them on a sheet. I don't mind which scale you work in, 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch. So for your elevations, I'm totally okay with you putting 2 elevations to a sheet just like this. Just a sec. So is it about that or?
No, I will show you.
Okay, yeah. So I thought it was a specific one. So are there any questions about what I'm requesting of you today?
No, it's about
Yes.
I'll need a refresh on just that last like 2 minutes of getting that frame around those two.
Sure, yeah, I'll go through it again, but I'm going to stop the video here so it's not redundant.